Oh.
What does my name suggest? Some exotic, sexy Russian, and here I am in my lovely Stoke accent.
Well, I was expecting a heavy accent. I don't know about sexy and all that. Hello and welcome to Fat Sam Podcast. This week we are joined by a lady called Natalia. I'm not even going to attempt the surname, but I'm sure she will fill you in on it right now. Natalia, say hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, I'm really excited by this podcast. Now, I want to know exactly everything about you, where it all began, who you are, and how you. Yeah, give us some history about who you are, what you do.
Well, I work in the construction industry, own a brickwork company, and we also now own a development company and a gym, which is totally unrelated, and we'll probably get onto that a little bit later on. So yeah, we like buying land, developing, we like building for other people, we like building for ourselves. Anything that's construction based, development based, we do it basically.
Let's go back even further. Tell me about you. Let's find out a little about you. What makes you tick? How, like your history.
I went to Catholic school, raised by Catholic parents. Probably rebelled against that a little bit. Did reasonably well at school. Did A levels, then decided that I didn't want to go to university. Got a boatload of flack off my parents. Oh, you're wasting your life, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be in education anymore. I wanted to be in business and to earn money and to get some sort of a career going, I think. So I binned uni, got married, which I didn't intend to do, but that just kind of happened. Had a couple of kids. So then I thought, do you know what? Maybe I can go to uni and use this time wisely. Went to uni, got a first class honours degree, went and did a postgraduate degree. And then that was when I really, at about the age of 25, decided that I was going to focus on a career, some kind of business or...
What did you get your degrees in?
My undergraduate degree was in English. I wanted to do a maths degree. But because I didn't go, a bit of a long story, but because I didn't go to uni straight from college, when I applied to go to uni at 21, because my A levels were over 12 months old, they said I would have to do a kind of a year's access course. And I got an A grade in maths and I was like, I'm not doing that. But the English course would take me on. So I ended up doing English, which wasn't really my first choice. So I did English and then I did a postgraduate degree, a research degree in American literature and culture.
Oh, go on. Why did you choose that?
I love literature. I've always loved English and maths. Those were always my two favourite subjects, and I've always been really creative. I love writing.
Is that like that? Edgar Allan Poe?
Oh God, yeah.
Is it
those little pieces? What is it? Death. Those little pieces of. I can't remember now, but yeah, he did some pretty dark stuff.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's quite fun. There's quite a bit of American literature that's quite powerful. It's gone out my head now. I'm acting like I know what you're talking about. I don't, but I used to watch this program that had a lot of it on there, and I don't know. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get back to you. So you've done your degree. You've had your kids. How do you make the transition from mum, graduate, to businesswoman, and somewhat of an athlete? I'm led to believe.
I'd had half the kids at that point. I didn't know I was going to go on and have another family later down the line. But yeah, I think I'd had the odd job while I was at university, some fairly decent jobs. I had a manager's job at an electrical outlet, but I knew from day one that the 9 to 5 wasn't for me. I love a challenge and I needed something more. So I decided to set up my own business. And the first business I had, when I divorced my first husband, I ended up moving to Canada and bought a wholesale bakery, which was bit random really, but there was a choice of 3 businesses. There was the bakery, there was a bed and breakfast up in the hills, or it was very similar to you know, the house in, what's it called, the vampire trilogy with Edward Pattinson. Oh, what was it called now?
Oh, Twilight.
Yeah, you know, his house. It was a bed and breakfast for sale, and it was like that in the middle of all this lush greenery in Hope, BC. It was beautiful. And there was a restaurant that was for sale, and the bakery was the one that was the cheapest, but it was also, it had the most, you know, I knew that I could take it somewhere and make a really good profit out of it. So that was my first dabble in business really, and the turnover doubled from what it was when we bought it. It doubled in the first year, and I just kind of got that crave to, it wasn't even just about making money, it was about, you know, how far you could take a business in every sense, you know, financially, you know, with marketing, in every way, just to get that brand out there. And then sold that for a huge profit and opened a restaurant called Little Britain, intended on making it a huge chain, because English food in Canada is non-existent, and the Canadian equivalents of things like tins of baked beans and chocolate just taste rank. It's disgusting. It's not the same ingredients. So we would import as well and have a little shop and stuff, but unfortunately my dad's health took a turn for the worst, so had to come back, which was a bit of a shame really, because that was on the verge of really picking up and taking off. But it is what it is. Family comes first at the end of the day.
So you're back from Canada. Where do you go from there? So your dad, like, obviously your dad's health took a turn for the worst. You're still quite successful. Like, you've made your profit. You put it into Little Britain. What happened to that business?
We had to shut it down. We'd only had it about 6 months. Yeah, had it about 6 months.
Was it a big loss?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I mean, obviously there was initial setup costs and stuff, but the profit that we'd made from the bakery was quite substantial. So it was just, it wouldn't have mattered at the end of the day, because it was my dad. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have mattered, but we were really lucky that didn't really dent the finances too much. So moved back, and kind of, it was strange moving back, because we'd been there for nearly 5 years, and you kind of get used to that American lifestyle, which is completely different to over here. And it took a while to kind of readjust being back over, I think. So for a couple of years, it was a little bit, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know, and I've always been into kind of fitness and working out. So I thought, I'm going to qualify as a PT, and then maybe I might open my own gym. That was the aim at that point. That didn't happen then.
Yeah, but you've so far you've taken on some quite difficult businesses, like, because I reckon the restaurant business is very difficult to do, and so is B&B. Like, running successful B&Bs and that sort of hospitality environment is very tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you want to open up a gym.
Oh God, yeah. Well, if it's not a challenge, it's not worth doing, is it? Let's face it. But the gym, I mean, it was always, you know, and then I kind of met my second husband, you know, my current husband. And the aim then was to have this big brand, this big gym chain, this big gym empire. But unfortunately, you know, it's... You don't just think, I'm going to open up a gym and it's going to be brilliant. You're like, no, I'm going to open up a chain of gyms. Absolutely.
One of the things about this podcast is getting behind the mentality that drives someone successful like yourself. Now, obviously, when you put your mind to something, you're not just thinking about making one successful little entity. You're thinking about global domination.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I've always had that mentality of thinking big, and I think it stems from my dad. You know, in all the interviews that I've done, and in my book as well, I talk a lot about my dad. And he was such, or is, should I say, God bless him, he's 85 and he's fit as a fiddle despite his heart problem. But he was always such an intelligent, driven, well, he still is an intelligent, driven man. And he had a daughter with his first wife, and my mum always tells me the story that, when I was expecting you, he was convinced you were going to be a boy, sort of thing. And I was kind of like, oh, sorry to disappoint, you know, not that he is, I'm sure he's not, but I always felt that kind of pressure with my dad, that, you know, I kind of got the impression that he wanted a son. He used to drag me to the Victoria ground, you know, on his shoulders and take me quad biking and stuff. So he kind of raised me to be quite a tough girl, really. And I think I put a lot of my ambition and determination down to him, both in terms of his genes coursing through me and also just his outlook on life. He's always been, you know, a go-getter, a grafter, and he's always dreamed high and shown me that, you know, you need to work hard and, you know, and chase your dreams, really. So I would put it down to my dad.
It's interesting, really. A lot of being an entrepreneur and a serial business owner like yourself, I've met a few people like yourself in my time, and a mentor of mine, a very, very, very good friend of mine, a chap called Hugh Owen, is an absolute powerhouse, and he puts his success. He always talks very, very fondly about his dad, the
Right.
same as yourself, like,
Yeah.
and it's like that it's a pinnacle figure in his life that's sort of given him the drive and the energy and this sort of work ethic. And he always talks quite fondly about when at his dad's funeral there were hundreds of people that come and just paid so much respect to his dad.
Yeah.
And he just was like, if I have half of that when I die, I'll be happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a really powerful thing. And I'm a new dad. I'm a late in life dad. I'm 38, and I've just, well, my daughter's 2 in April.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can see the importance of being a dad and what that can, and the effect that can have going forward. So
Absolutely.
I'm
And
not
I don't
taking
think
it lightly.
Yeah, I don't think you realise that until you become a parent yourself, you know, like you've just said. And I, you know, I've got 5 children, and it's my eldest 20. And it's become apparent to me now that my eldest are getting older, like 20 and 18, of how much of an influence I've had on them. Like my daughter, she's at uni and she's struggling with living away a little bit, especially with lockdown. I think that's made it worse for her. And the other day she just had a complete meltdown, and she said, Mom, you know, she wants to be a lecturer. She's doing a degree in English, and she wanted to take the route that I initially took. And I just said to her, I said, listen, just, you know, if you should, I want to come home. I've had enough of everything. I want to jack the course in. And I turned around to her and I said, then jack it in. That's what you want to do, jack it in. You know, you're not going to get she wouldn't get any flack from me for doing that. I wouldn't see it as a failure. You know, circumstances change, things change. I said, jack it in. She's like, but what am I going to do? I said, well, you can come and work for me. Well, for us, the business. And she's like, oh, I don't want any preferential treatment. And I'm like, oh no, you're not going to get any preferential treatment. But what I'm saying is, you can have a job on minimum wage, you can work in the office, or, you know, you can even do an apprenticeship if you wanted to. I'd love to see more women on site. You can do whatever you want to do, and we as a business will support you, and you've got that option. And she turned around and she said, Mum, I really appreciate the offer. She says, but I want to make my own way in life, and I want to be the champion of my own success. And I thought, wow, you know, that was so nice for me to hear. So a little part of me, I think, must have rubbed off on her a little bit.
You must have been proud of that. Like, that's very close to my favorite saying. So I won't go into my history. It's boring. Listeners have heard it a million times, but I had to turn my life around at one point. And there's a famous podcaster called Joe Rogan, and he done a motivational speech, and he says, be the hero of your own story. If you had to write a book and you was a hero, what would you do next?
Yeah.
And she's got that mindset already built in. You should be very proud of that. I think that's amazing.
I am. Yeah.
So business. So you have come back. Dad's not well. He's well now. You're kicking about. What next?
What's next, as in when I came back from Canada?
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah. So I met my husband and had another couple of kids. Had the second family. And as I say, I've always been into fitness and a healthy diet and everything, and I've always wanted a gym. But the kind of fortune, well, I say fortune in the loosest sense of the word, but the money that I'd kind of amassed abroad went into just kind of not working, and I'm gonna doss it a little bit, and I'm gonna have some kids. And we didn't really work for a couple of years, and I guess we kind of squandered most of it away, if I'm honest. But you know, we had a fantastic life. We had lots of holidays. We had new motorbikes, and we just kind of, we were living the dream at that point. Oh yeah, we were living the dream at that point.
Wait. Did you say motorbikes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I actually got him to pass his test because I was out on my bike all the time, and he was didn't like getting on the back of me because it scared him a little bit. So I was like, take your test. So he took his test. And
right, male pride right now. Yeah, my toxic masculinity is coming out. I never get on the back of a bike with a woman. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, it is a bit emasculating, to be fair. So
what bike like this? Let's park the business talk and let's go into bike choice for a minute. So I'm a biker. Historically, sports bikes. I've built some sports bikes myself. So I started out on a CBR 400, which is a baby blade, an import, Belgium import.
Yeah.
And then I had a CBR 600, the 2005 version. It was the last of the Japanese-made CBR 600s, RRs. And then I had a few other bikes since then. And then my best bike probably was the R1 that I built. What happened was I bought a lovely R1 and I spent all winter taking every bolt out with a little Dremel and polishing it with metal polish, and it was immaculate. At the end of the winter, the weekend before you want to take them out and go for your Sunday morning blast, I was taking it to have the tires changed because super funny about tires. Got to have fresh tires for the summer, and parked it. I got it, put it on the side stand, put the helmet on top of it, and went to walk in, and all I heard was crunch.
Oh no.
And I thought, please just be the helmet. I can suffer the helmet. Turned around and the bike had fallen over, and it had done 800 quid's worth of damage down one side.
What did you do? Forget to put the stand down?
No, I didn't put the stand down enough, and it rolled off slowly. Off. It done the handlebar, it done the lever, the fairing, the pegs, the lot.
We've all done it.
Oh, I wanted to cry, but then I rebuilt it. And I'd done it all custom, and that was my pride and joy. I had a Ducati 1198 as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm a biker. Now let's hear your bike choices.
I've only had two bikes. I did my CBT, and that was, I believe they've changed it now. That was back when you could take it on was it a 5 or a 600? It's that long ago. I passed my test in 2009, so it was a while back. But now you can't pass your test and have a big engine bike straight away.
No, you can't.
Well, you could when I passed mine. So in true Natalia style, I passed my test and I went out and bought a brand new Fireblade 1000 RR. I had the Repsol paint job.
Yes.
It was beautiful. It was the nicest bike I've ever had. And then again, in true Natalia style, 12 months down the line, car's back. So I'm bored with it. I want something different. So I traded it in for an HM Plant, black one with white rims. And it was beautiful and it was new, but the Repsol one for me, I look at pictures of that now and I think that was the nicer one of the two.
It was stunning.
It was stunning.
It's a stunning colorway on it. I come so close to buying one. So close to buying a
Repsol.
A Repsol, yeah. So I went. For those of you who don't know, it's a Honda and it's a Repsol racing colours. I went. I was living at the time. There was a bike shop down there that sold secondhands, but good secondhand bikes. And I was in there and I was kicking about. I was going to buy it, then I wasn't going to buy it, and it was just. I'm really funny. Like my bikes have to be immaculate if I'm buying them because it's a toy. It's an expensive toy. It's not my everyday, so it has to be immaculate. I don't want no problems with it. And there was a tiny little crack in the fairing on the Repsol. Couldn't have it. Yeah. And I ended up buying a GSXR 750.
The Gixxers are nice bikes. My other half, that was his first bike. I bought him was it a 600 or a 750? I think it was a 750 Gixxer with the Rizzler colours. That was a nice bike.
See, I'm not a fan of the Rizzler colours. I'll be honest with you. I had a black and red one, and it's probably my favourite bike out of all the bikes in terms of handling, speed. It's just a killer. It was so much fun. And I didn't live too far away from Brands Hatch, so in the evenings you can pay
Oh, wow.
£75 and do an evening. So you get there at 4 o'clock, and you get 4 20-minute sessions, which is enough for a
That's
fat man like me.
amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
and for
Yeah.
£75, probably
Yeah.
need a new back tire at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and a tank of petrol. But listen, I've tried. There's no better way to spend £75.
Yeah,
Trust
I
me.
agree. I agree.
So yeah. Anyway, before every listener switches off about our boring bike stories, let's get back to the nitty gritty business.
So yeah, so the money that I'd kind of accumulated, which was a decent amount, was kind of almost gone. So we were like, right, what are we going to do? And my husband has always been in the building industry. He's been a bricklayer all his life, and I was into fitness. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to qualify as a PT and a gym instructor, and then I wanted to work in that capacity in a gym. And then the dream one day was to kind of own my own gym and create this brand and kind of get it out there in this chain of gyms. So I had another couple of kids, qualified, the years went by, and then I think women will understand that when you are pregnant and you are nursing, you're full of all these hormones and you're kind of like Mary Poppins. You know, you don't crave adventure as such. You kind of focused on these little human beings. And my last two I had so close together, and I was nursing them for an extended period of time, and my whole life was just focused on these kids, which was amazing, you know, these little babies. And then as they kind of grew up and they kind of weaned them and they start going to school, I was kind of like, oh well, I need something for me again now, so how am I going to get this business thing off the ground? But we couldn't afford to set up a gym. You know, my husband was working, he had a really good job as a contracts manager for a main contractor, but I wasn't working, and the odd hours that I was doing at the gym, just, you know, you're talking like £300-400 a month. It was nothing really. So that wasn't an option at that time. And the only really viable business option that we had was to start a construction company up. And my husband kept saying, oh yeah, we'll do it one day. And I mean, I understand he's the man of the home. He's got to be cautious. You can't just go and jack your job in and set up a business and all the rest of it. Whereas I'm very much a risk taker. So I was like, you know what, we just need to do it. If we'll remortgage the house, we'll start off with 20 grand. If it goes tits up, it goes tits up. We can afford the mortgage payments, whatever. And that's essentially what we did. We started Value Construction with £20,000, started tendering for small bricklaying jobs. First job was a wall. It was about 300 foot long, but it was only about 5 courses high. And then we ended up taking subcontractors on, taking lads on. I think we had 6 lads on that first job.
How did you choose? Why did you choose bricklaying?
Because it was the only business option that was viable with the money we had. Trying to set up a gym with £20,000 is, you wouldn't do it.
No, but what I'm saying is with all the different trades, why bricklaying?
Because my husband was a bricklayer, and he
that makes sense.
was very, he'd worked as a bricklayer, then he'd worked as a bricklaying supervisor, then he'd worked as a contracts manager for a main contractor. And he had all of the knowledge of the construction industry, of bricklaying, you know, primarily. And we knew that 20 grand would be enough to get us started, because he started off bricklaying himself, and then he kind of take another bricklayer with him, and they go as a gang, as a 2 and a 1 or whatever. And then within 12 months we turned that 20 grand into nearly £1 million turnover company. So It was definitely the right decision instead of opening a gym.
Talk me through that process, because that's the juiciness, isn't it? How do you get from 20 grand to £1 million turnover? Obviously it's not profit, we know that's not the profit. Let's be cheeky, what was the profit at the end of that? Profit
on the first year was ridiculous. It was 23% net profit, which was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, you know. And the second year of business,
I'm so dumb, I'm working it out.
Yeah, 23% of 100 is sorry, of $1 million is about $250,000 roughly. It was, but I mean, obviously you reinvest that back into the business. Course, you know, you don't draw that out, because you're going to be hit with bloody tax and all. Well, we were anyway, but you know, you've got to be smart with it, and cash flow is a massive thing, because the first job that we took on, we had 6 lads working for us, and then by the end of the year we'd taken on bigger jobs and bigger jobs and bigger jobs, and we had almost 100 lads working for us. And then obviously you think that a decent bricklayer is going to be earning £2 a week. You know, the wage bill some weeks, yeah, if you want to retrain as a brickie.
I want £2 a week. No, I don't. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you, I'm so done with a 9 to 5. I'm so done with it. Hence, I'm talking for a living. Well, not really a living, but I'm trying. So you've started up this construction company, bricklaying company. Where is it now? What are you doing now? Let's fast forward to where we are today.
Well, we're almost 3 years down the line. We've still got the same amount of lads working for us. We do a lot bigger jobs. So, for example, in the first year, the jobs that we'd perhaps build a couple of office blocks or a housing estate with maybe 5 or 6 houses on. Everything's just kind of the same, but on a bigger scale. So we've done an 84-bed care home, housing estates with kind of 80 houses on, that kind of thing. So it's just the scale of it that's increased, really. And when you're in that position, you can pick and choose the clients that you use, you know, the best payment terms, and just be a little bit more picky with, you know, the people that you work with and stuff, and make it more profitable.
Because that's an issue, isn't it? Certainly in construction, is payment terms. Some people get a real bum deal with payment terms, like 90 days after you put the invoice in and stuff like that. And a lot of the big contractors, they like to do that, don't they?
Yes, they do. And then you also find that the big contractors will offer discounts. They'll give you an early payment, but then they take money off you, they take a levy off you, so you've got to kind of weigh up whether you've got the cash flow to see it through. We kind of sat down together once and said, is it worth taking on the bigger jobs with the longer payment terms for a possibly, you know, fractional higher profit margin, or are you better off getting paid weekly or fortnightly with smaller guys, where you kind of guaranteed your money? If they fold, they're not going to take you with them. And that's one thing, you know, that we kind of learned in the first 12 months, is that, you know, it's the sooner you get paid, the better it is. Cash is king at the end of the day, isn't it? Let's face it.
For sure.
You know,
I'm saying that like I'm a businessman. I don't know. But what I do know is that makes perfect sense to a layman like myself. One thing I want to touch on is your career as a fitness model or fitness builder. I don't know what you call it. I know. Well, it's not really bodybuilding, are you? Because you wasn't.
It was. It is class. Yeah, it is classed as bodybuilding. There's different classes within that. You've kind of got your stages from the really slim toned but not very muscular kind of bikini, like glamour.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of work your way up to the women that look very masculine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do the bikini one because it's just really a question of kind of starving yourself. Don't get me wrong, they do work out. I'm going to get a load of flack for saying that. They do work out, but I would argue personally that bikini class is more dietary based than training based. And with me being interested in the gym and having a real passion for weight training, that wasn't the road I wanted to go down. So I did the next one up, which was called a toned figure competition. So you have to have a specific minimal amount of muscle mass.
You was pretty lean though. You was pretty lean.
Yeah, they're all pretty lean.
But you
obviously
less than 7%.
Sorry?
Body fat. Less than 7% body fat.
Not for women. Women would really struggle to get that low.
Okay.
Your elite athletes that are the really big ladies on an elite level would probably be down there. But the women that you kind of, it depends on the class, but if you kind of Google toned figure and look at the women that are on that level, your body fat needs to be, I would argue, around about 11-12%. Which is still bloody low and bloody hard to get, believe me.
Yeah, you're talking to a fat man. I'm probably 25% fat. Don't worry about it. And that's being optimistic, if I'm honest. No, I wanted to talk about that because how much does fitness and having a healthy body play into your healthy mindset and your driving force in your work life? Because for me,
Yeah.
when I'm training, like, okay, I know I make fun of myself, but I do like training.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
you know, none of us have really been to the gym for a year. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'll probably put on 2 stone this year, just sitting about in the house, just monging around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, how much do you? Right, I'll get my words out in a minute. How much
Yeah.
do you feel being fit and enjoying a fit body plays into your mindset?
Me personally, it's a massive part, and there's a definite correlation between the two. I think that whole, you know, not even stepping on stage, but people who diet or can diet with the willpower, let's say, just your normal people that don't, do any bodybuilding competitions or whatever. Those people that kind of have the willpower to be really strict with a diet, and get themselves in a place where they want to be, tend to be the kind of people, if you've got that willpower, then 9 times out of 10, you will be the kind of person that is very motivated, you know what I mean, easily motivated by those kind of changes and those results. But everybody's different. I mean, I know some people who are hugely successful in business, running multi-million-pound company, and they've got absolutely no willpower in any area of life, let alone diet, anything. Do you know what I mean? So I think everybody's different. But for me personally, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. I want to do something and I want to do it 100% to the best of my ability, or I'm not going to do it.
It's a difficult one, because I do honestly believe that a fit body really helps you with your mindset. I suffer quite badly from mental health issues, getting down, depressed. Depression is an annoying thing in my life, and it's directly proportional to my lifestyle a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well,
When
that's
I
been scientifically proven that what you put in your body will affect your mental state of mind. The more processed crap you eat and alcohol, it will affect you, and it will make you more susceptible to depression, anxiety, and things like that.
Yeah, and for me, getting fit really should be my priority. That is not at the moment, because can't go outside the house. I've been shielded right the way through as well, so
Yeah.
that's been really boring.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about me. Let's get back to you. Where are you now? What is happening with? So it's called value construction. You've got this successful bricklaying company. You've got the business side down. What's next? What's happening?
Value developments is what's next. Value developments was always the end goal. When we started building housing estates for other people and care homes for other people, it became evident that if you can build it for yourself and sell it, then obviously your profit, your turnover, and therefore your profit is going to be a lot more. And that was always the end goal. But initially, we weren't in a financial position to do that, because we didn't want to go borrowing a boatload of money to buy a plot of land to build 5 or 6 houses. So the aim was to really keep reinvesting in value construction, as I've said, and build up enough cash and enough knowledge of the industry, because my husband's very good at construction, but the development side was new to both of us. So, build up enough knowledge and cash to enable us to then start our own developments, which is what we're doing now. And that is where I want to take the business further down the line. I want to really focus on that. And I think eventually value construction will probably just kind of disappear, really.
Oh, okay. So you're going to parlay the success of value construction to developments.
Yeah, because value construction is primarily a brickwork company, and we do work for other people, and I want to cut out the other people. I don't want to line Mr.
You want
such
to
and
be
such a body's pockets.
You want to be a development mogul.
Exactly. Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Why not? Why not? Again, this is you. So you're a bit of an extremist, a bit thinking of the bigger picture, but you have an ability to navigate your way there by focusing on the small stuff as well. A lot of people have big ideas and no ability to sort of get from A to B. How do you
Yes,
manage
yeah.
that? Like, you've got this idea of being this development mogul, you know, buying land all around the country, building houses and stuff.
Mhm.
How do you sort of tame that want and that desire? Because that fire and that desire to be successful, there's a whole heap of points you've got to get to before you get to that success.
Yeah,
How are you taming that?
I don't, but luckily my husband reins me in. You know, and I think that's why we work so well together, because I'm the kind of risk taker. This is where we want to be in 5 years. You know, we've always said that. And he wants to be in the same place, but he's kind of more structured and sees things from a different point of view than I do. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can take a risk and skip out this and this and get to that end point. Sometimes it doesn't work. So I think it's all about kind of weighing up your options, and I think that we're lucky that we work so well together, because he has kind of pulled me back, and at certain times I would have made decisions that, you know, with regard to going into development too soon, that might not have paid off. But I always turn around and say, well, it might, and we could have been multimillionaires now living in Dubai and just letting someone else deal with all this day-to-day shit that we deal with.
What, you would want to move to Dubai?
No, I don't actually. I love Dubai. It's one of my favourite places, but no, I'm not sure I would want to move there. Holiday home there would be nice, I think.
My sister lives out there.
Does she?
Yeah, I always talk about my sister. I think I miss her a little bit lately. She moved out there. She got made redundant during the recession.
Yeah.
She was a secretary or PA up in working in the banks up in London.
Which recession? 2009 kind of recession?
Was that then?
Or earlier than that?
No, the latest one. Yeah, the latest one. Yeah. And she got made redundant, and she had like $3,000, and she had a friend who lived out there, and she just said, "Do you know what? I'm gonna have a go. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna see if I can get a job." And yeah, she's still out there now. Oh, amazing story. Yeah. Of her being out there. I'm going to have her on the podcast soon to talk about her story. It's quite funny, tragic at the same time, but it's an inspiring story. Mm-hmm. I haven't been out there yet, but yeah, I don't think I'd want to live out there.
Oh, it's lovely. I just like the sun. I think I see somewhere with sun, or I go somewhere with sun. Every time we go abroad, oh, I'd love to live here. When really, in reality, if I looked into it, I probably wouldn't, let's face it. But I like the fact that Dubai is very, very, you know, friendly to Westerners, despite what people kind of, we were warned. We went out there during Ramadan, so all these people that knew everything about it, oh, don't go out there, and don't go out there during Ramadan, you won't be able to have your shoulders uncovered. But they're so nice and so accommodating to Westerners, you know, that it didn't affect our holiday or our comfort in any way.
No, my sister says the same thing. She says it's fantastic. She loves it. She's moving back soon because she's going to start a family and stuff like that. But, and she needs to secure it in the UK, if you like, because, you know, you're only as good as your last day out there, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a bit of a meat grinder for workers out there. Mm-hmm. If you're not performing, you're out. And you know, that's a powerful thing in itself. But raising a family, you need a bit more security. So where was we talking about? I was talking about you taking risks and living in Dubai. Taking risks and could be living in Dubai.
Yes, that's right. I could.
So,
but you know what? I think that life is all about the journey, and I do keep saying that. I do. And my problem is, I want this end goal. I want to make this bakery a success. I want to make Little Britain a success. And then when I get to that end goal, I want something else. I'm never satisfied. That is one of my faults. And I think that people who are highly motivated, I am highly motivated. That is one of my few positive points. I think that people that are highly motivated like that and very ambitious are never satisfied. I'm never satisfied with what I've got, and I don't think I ever will be.
Because I feel like you're not chasing the money. You're chasing the success.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Money's nice, don't get me wrong, but
for sure.
It's not just about that for me.
chasing the success and actually having something viable is an appealing thing. On a much smaller scale, like with this podcast, I would like to see it be successful. But what
I'm
is
so
successful?
envious. I'm so envious of you doing a podcast. I love the idea. I love the idea of being a little interviewer, and I just love the whole concept. I think it's brilliant. And if you've got a good, kind of ethos behind what you're doing, which you seem to have, then you should do really well.
You know what? It's more about having a conversation with someone, but not just talking about nonsense. It's about extracting little nuggets of gold that people can be like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And actually having that sort of conversation, I've sort of learned from my very early days with the electrical podcast, it's actually a bit of a craft, getting people to sort of open up and tell their story and stuff like that. It's I really enjoy it, and to make it something successful and viable is what's driving me. I don't
So what's your ultimate aim then for the podcast? What's your ultimate aim?
Do you know what? I just really want it to be a popular podcast that people enjoy. I would like for it to pay my bills. I've had a podcast that does pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like this to be just successful in its own right, to be the go-to construction podcast, if you like. I'm not interested in fame or anything like that. I don't want a TV show or anything like that. I just, I'm not interested. I just like having conversations, and I talk a lot. And
you don't, do you?
No. And it sort of translates into a podcast. Why not? Yeah. So what is what is your next step? So you're doing the developments. When are you going to be the multi-millionaire baroness?
Baroness. The developments is definitely the priority at the moment. I would like to get my book on the big screen. That is another goal of mine at the minute.
Let's talk about that. So you've got a book. And what is that book about?
That book is essentially it was labelled as a business memoir by my agent, because he's, I don't want to say too much, old school, and didn't want to label it as an erotic memoir. So I had to put quite a few business stories in there, which I did.
Wait, what?
But it's kind of like a real life 50 Shades of Grey. And the reason that I put so much sex in it is because sex sells. That is the bottom line. But it is also, it's a journey of making your life a success, I guess. The stuff that we've talked about on here, making businesses a success, and just having that kind of get up and go mentality, that motivational streak, I guess, and how to capitalize on that in life. So when it was first released, my agent said, right, well, who's your audience? And I turned around and I said, well, everybody really. And he kind of looked at me like I'd gone out, because you have to have a specific audience. And I mean, really on paper, and when we approached publishers and things, it was a case of, I'm aiming it at business women, women that kind of want a bit of escapism, such as your 50 Shades and things like that. But in truth, more men have bought it than women, which is crazy, because obviously there is a construction element to it, there is a business element to it, and there is a sex element to it. And men, whether they want to admit it or not, do actually enjoy kind of reading. It's not like 50 Shades of Grey where it's all love and romance either, which men wouldn't, I'm guessing, be interested in. It is a bit gritty and a bit porny in places. If I'm honest, I'm just putting it out there.
Hey. So, do you know what's funny? It's funny you say this. I've got two things to say about that. One, you're not afraid to use your sexuality and your looks and your feminism, if you like, as a tool to success.
No.
That's very powerful.
Why would I, as a human being, turn down or not use a tool that I've got that's going to get me to where I want to be? I'd be a fool not to. And so many people on LinkedIn get butthurt by some of the photos I post. And, I'm saying this now, and people who don't know me are probably going to think, Jesus Christ, she's posting kind of naked selfie. But you know what I mean? If I want to sit in my office in a relatively short skirt, in a business suit, in a business setting, or go to a business meeting in a short skirt, or wear heels with really tight fitting trousers, why should I not be allowed to kind of post that and get that out there? Because it is wrong in a way, but that kind of thing does get you noticed, and if you're looking for contacts.
I don't think it is. So is it wrong to be born with a high IQ and use that to be successful?
But that's not frowned upon the same, is it?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you think about it, it's the same thing. You was born, I don't know, with
long legs, yes.
With a good figure. Yeah, so you were born with a good figure. But you can't use that because other people ain't got a good figure.
Yeah, but that's kind of the mentality today, isn't it? Everything's got to be politically correct, and we can't offend people, and we can't say this, and we can't do that. And I would never, ever say anything to purposely offend anybody. That's not the kind of person that I am. But going back to what you were saying, if you're given a tool that's going to help you succeed in life, if that tool isn't hurting somebody else or exploiting somebody else, then you would be a fool not to use it, whatever that tool is.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see that. I don't see there being a. Listen, men are stupid. Right? When it comes to.
Glad you said that.
No, when it comes to like an attractive woman, I swear I read something that men actually get more stupid around an attractive woman, which is hilarious because I certainly don't. However, a funny story. I had Christina Trucker Babe on last week.
Yeah.
And she's a very attractive lady from North London. Yeah. Absolutely owns it as well. Owns it. I nearly done that. No, I'm definitely never. I'm editing that out. But she owns it, and she does OnlyFans. So nothing hardcore or anything like that.
Yeah.
Sexy photos. Maybe like page 3,
yes, yeah,
that sort of thing. And lads, you know who you are. She's had a load of subscribers from the podcast.
Yeah.
That's
fantastic, though. That's fantastic, brilliant.
She made 10 grand in 3 weeks from her debut on OnlyFans. She took ownership of it. She's using it. And she's unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a new era for women. When you think about it, like women, I'm not going to talk about women in construction because I think it's been done to death in terms of, oh, we must support women in construction and stuff like that. Women don't need our support.
Exactly.
Just don't need it. Yeah. Like, we don't need to say, go, Christina, go and do it. Like, you don't want that. You probably don't even want it. You'd probably be like, all right, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shut up.
Yeah, I've got this. Don't worry. Like, it's more about taking ownership. And like you say, like your daughter said, being the hero of your own story, being a champion of your own success. Let's get back to this book for a second. Is it a biography or is it?
Yes, it's an autobiography. Yes, it is.
Oh, so you went in.
Do you know what? I kind of wrote it down, and I approached this agent, and Andrew. He was fantastic, and he was like, you know what? You've got a really interesting story to tell, and let's get it out there. And like I say, we needed to make a few tweaks and make it a bit more kind of racy and sexy than I initially wanted, but that was what we needed to get it to sell well. So that's what we did. But changing the subject slightly, what you were saying about Christina is I'd ended up doing a calendar. 2021 calendar, and the pre-orders on that sold out within 2 days, quicker than the book, quicker than anything I've ever written construction based, because I've done a couple of other booklets and things that I've kind of given out on mental health and stuff, because mental health is a massive deal to me too. But the calendar was just a complete, and it's like, but if that's what people want and that's what you want to do, I'd love to do an OnlyFans. I'd love to, and I think it's great that women can do it these days, but I haven't got time for a start. But
I don't really know where to go with this conversation. Yeah. Anyway, I'm flustered now. You've embarrassed. But no, I think it's fantastic. I think we live in definitely a unique time in terms of, if you think about it, in the last probably 10 years, the world has moved forward so rapidly in terms of accessibility to information. The world has shrunk in terms of the ability to see what other women, other men, other people are doing. I call something that had a massive effect on my life the Joe Rogan effect. He's probably got the biggest podcast in the world, and very influential on young men in terms of how, like, not guiding, but changing the mentality of how
Yes.
men are perceived and how should be perceived. Like, you don't need to go around punching people in the head to be a man. You be proficient at that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, also be kind, courteous, and all that sort of stuff.
Do you know what? I think that's a really important point, because people keep saying about women, oh, so much has changed for women over the past 10 years. And it has, you know, like you're saying, it's more acceptable now. If you want to go and do a topless calendar shoot or whatever, you know, you're not going to get as much shit for it as you would have done 10 years ago. But I think you've hit the nail on the head that men too, also over the last 10 years have changed, like you've just said, their expectations.
And so if we bring it full circle to the construction industry, how you are and what you've done in the construction industry, not 10 years ago, but maybe 30 years ago, would have been a lot more difficult because of the mentality back then. If we talk the 80s, if you like, can you imagine how, you know, it would have been a rough time to do what you've done
women
in the
80s trying to be a boss in any industry would have encountered a lot more difficulties than you do today. You know, I really believe that we have come on so far. We are taken more seriously now than we used to be. Oh God, yeah, the 80s. You would never have the opportunities to do that in the first place, let alone, you know. So we've got to be grateful as women for how much, you know, opportunities we have got now that we never did have before.
There was it's funny, there was a Twitter post yesterday, a lady sort of having a vent about, you know, being called, like, terminologies like man hours being used around her and stuff like that, and how construction needs to catch up with the 21st century. And I believe it does in many ways, but that sort of mentality isn't going to help you on the micro level. Like, you in your job, if you as a worker are pushing back again, don't say man hours, say person hours. You know, that's not, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to do you any favors.
Of course it's
You've
not.
got to be the architect of your own change. You can't rely on other people to bend to your will. You've got to go out there and make a difference for yourself. And that's one of the things I really believe. I left a job last week. I was on a job in London, and it was just unacceptable. And I couldn't change that job.
Yeah.
Because I'm an agency worker, agency electrician on site. No one's going to listen to me. But do I accept it for myself, or do I be the architect of my own change, leave that job and go and create something better?
Yeah.
So that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Moaning about those small, tiny things isn't going to get you anywhere. Pushing back, fighting against it's not going to get you anywhere. It's about anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So, saying no to Lord Sugar.
That would have been an experience and a half. I mean, we had to kind of sign a disclaimer at the first stage of interview where there's 40,000 of us going forward, that you're not going to divulge any information, you're not going to share any pictures, you're not going to do this, that and the other, which I took no notice of whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, going back then, we were in the second year of business. It's a £250,000. Sorry.
Let me stop you a sec. So this is so you've applied to go on BBC's The Apprentice with Alan Sugar.
Yeah.
And you've 40,000 applicants. You're in amongst it. Carry on.
Made it through the first interview, made it through the second interview, made it through the third interview, and got offered a spot on the show. obviously the interview was actually this time last year. I put a post on, I noticed on my memories, it came up 2-3 days ago, the first round of auditions, and it was reasonably quick. I think I got offered a place early April of last year to start filming, and obviously COVID hit, so nothing got filmed anyway, but I ended up turning it down because it wasn't for me. I mean, I think with a show like that, if you make it through the first few rounds, the same as when I was on the Weakest Link a few years ago, if you make it through the first few rounds and you get through to the last few and you get noticed, you've got a really good chance. If you're a strong person, I honestly believe if I'd have made it, well, I'd have won it, let's face it, but if I'd have made it through to the last few, the finals, I believe that it really could have launched value developments and done us a massive favour. But the issue that I had was, it's a £250,000 investment, which, to be fair, for our business and in the construction industry is not a lot of money at all.
No.
I ended up asking an interview if that was negotiable, if they'd offer more, and they looked at me, they were absolutely horrified. And then he has a 50% share of your business. I don't want to be sharing 50% with Alan Sugar. I want to be making all that money for myself. I don't think that, if I want, no disrespect to anybody that goes on there with a smaller business idea, but if I wanted to open a gym, for example, a gym, or a restaurant chain, or a hairdresser, or something that will never, probably, shouldn't say never, but more than likely never grow into a huge brand, £250,000 is a hell of a lot of money. It's a fantastic experience. You've got his expertise and business guidance behind you. But for me, it would have been a step backwards. It wasn't offering me anything that I need, apart from his knowledge, which I think he's absolutely, as a businessman, is fantastic, and his contacts. Apart from that, I would have gained nothing from going on that show.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a tough question, because what could he have brought? But for 50%, you want him to be putting in 50% of the effort, and he just ain't gonna be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe at 20%, it would have been a viable option, but at 50%, you're going to be doing all the graft. He's going to be coming in, opening a few doors for you and stuff like that. That's his value, but he's not going to be helping you along the way, really, mentoring you and stuff like that.
To be honest, I mean, in the industry that we're in, my husband had some knowledge and some contacts when he started, and a lot of our work is repeat business. It's word of mouth. We don't ever advertise. We've never advertised because we don't need to. That is the bottom line with our business. So, we know enough, and we do enough as we are. I don't really think he could have brought a great deal for us. I really don't. Not for the price that you would pay.
What is the price?
Well, it's for 50%, isn't it, of a company that's going to be turning over.
But what would you have accepted as a buy-in?
Oh, I see. It would have to be a much smaller percentage, I think, or an investment of 1-2 million. And I even said that on the final round of interview, when you get interviewed by one of his most trusted business advisors. And I think that's probably partly the reason why maybe they offered me a place, because they knew that I was just so ballsy. I just didn't care. If I'm going to not see my kids for up to 12 weeks, which would have absolutely, to this day, my husband says, you never lasted in that house. I mean, I think if you've got an end goal, I would have done, but it would have killed me. If I'm going to be away from my kids for 12 weeks and my family, it's got to be worth it for me. And it just wasn't the stakes that they offered, and they weren't willing to offer any more. It's a game show. It's not a business concept. Yeah. It is a game show.
It is. And like you say, for like a smaller company that, hasn't got as much growth potential as quickly as, say, a development company has,
it's life-changing.
Yeah, but I think you've got your goal, you've got a track record, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going. It is hard to then take a step back to being a partner, and you'd always be the second in command. Really. You would be.
Absolutely.
You just would, because it'd be like, no, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So no, I think you made the right decision for yourself. Again, what do I know? I'm sitting in a shed. But listen, Christina, on that bombshell, if you like, I don't want to sound like Clarkson. It's been a fantastic conversation, and such an insightful conversation. Final thoughts?
Put me right on the spot then. Final thoughts. I'm contemplating having some beef flavoured Space Invaders before bed, but it's not going to help the diet.
Beef. Do you know what? I don't know what's better, beef or pickled onion.
Yeah. It depends what day you catch me on. Pickled onion, Monster Munch. Oh, but then beef Space Raiders are.
No, pickled onion and Space Raiders are just the same.
No, not as good as pickled onion Monster Munch.
I will have to do my research tomorrow about this. But no, I'm fasting at the moment. We're doing so part of the show. No, not for Lent. Me and a couple of other electricians, we started up this 28-day challenge. Duncan Thompson, he started up something called Positive Charge, and it's about just, you know, putting out. It's literally an Instagram page that puts out a positive vibe every day. So whether it's a quote, a picture, something inspirational every day, he puts it out, and you know, it's doing great things. On top of that, we decided. So I've done a podcast with him, an amazing podcast. Please go and check that out. Duncan Thompson podcast. He is the most understated superhero you have ever met in your life. Honestly, if anyone watching this ever listens to a podcast, go and listen to Duncan Thompson podcast. And another very inspirational chap, Matt Thomas. We decided to do a challenge for February. And do a podcast for it, and then get people to jump in the WhatsApp group and join us on this challenge. And it's nothing difficult in it. It's just difficult over time. So it's wake up at 5, 1 mile run or walk, 10 burpees, 10 press ups, cold shower, and then we're fasting. Well, we have an eating window between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. That's our eating window. The rest of the time is only black coffee and water.
Wow, fair play to you. That's pretty intense.
Way more intense than I thought it would be. Not gonna lie, way more intense.
You sign up for these things and you think, yeah. Someone said to me, "What are you doing for Lent this year?" And I said, "Nothing." I'm like, no, because I have not at this precise moment in time with lockdown. I haven't got the willpower to do it, and I don't want to do something if I know I'm going to fail. So I haven't given up chocolate or alcohol or anything.
No, I did it because of lockdown. I did it because I've become very undisciplined.
Yeah.
And these small wins each day, that getting up at 5 o'clock, even though every fibre in your body goes, again, not again.
Do you know what? It's massive. It is massive.
It is. Yeah. And, you know, the cold shower, funny enough, is a big thing. Like, took me a while to get used to them. So you start off, you have your normal shower, whack it round to cold, get in, firm it for as long as you can, jump out. Feel amazing from it. Some people don't get that. And the fasting, the health benefits from the fasting have been so game-changing. I probably will keep doing it forever. I say forever, but like on and off.
Are you trying to be healthy in the 7-hour window that you've got as well? Or
I try. Okay, so I make a conscious effort not to eat badly, but I'm also not super strict. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather not waste that time eating a bag of crisps, a chocolate bar, and a can of Coke. I'd rather, you know, have something half sensible, like a decent meal at 1 o'clock and a decent meal at 5, like a wholesome meal, freshly cooked. You know, I do fail at it sometimes. Like, what did we have yesterday? Chocolate brownies and double cream. I had to. It was just there. I was like, no, I'm weak. So I did it. You know, but that is life, isn't it? It's about living.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And I think if you're too strict on yourself, you kind of set yourself up for failure. If you know, it's not like you've been doing it for say 3 months, doing this routine, and then saying, right, from 1 till 8 now, 3 months down the line, I'm going to make a conscious effort to be really healthy. You'd probably find that that's a lot easier because you've got that structure in that routine. But to just kind of throw yourself into that, you know, I take my hats off to you. It's really, really tough. It's very, and again, this is why I'm not doing anything for Lent, because I know that I wouldn't commit to it. It's very easy to say, oh, I can get up at 5 every day and I can do this. But to do it day in and day out, that discipline, a lot of people, you know, just cry off after a few days.
Well, we started off with a group of 25 people, 25 listeners from the podcast jumped on the group with us.
Let me
I'm not
guess.
sure. I haven't checked.
Oh.
But I know there's a few falling out. I know there's a few people not being strict. You know, it is what it is.
Of course it is. And any little thing, you know, if people aren't doing it to, you know, to its full potential, so what? At least they're doing part of it or some of it.
That's important. Yeah, do what you could do, and that, and I suppose that's a moral of the story. We are at the end of the podcast. Again, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. I definitely would love to do a part 2. Try and understand a bit more about your book, what makes you tick. Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a book review. No, I'm not. My wife's not going to let me read it, is she?
I tell you what, seriously, when's your wife's birthday?
December.
Oh, it's way away. Just treat her to a present.
Mother's Day.
Buy the book for her and let her read it. Honestly, she won't leave you alone. She'll be jumping on you every night, guaranteed.
Well, it is baby making season. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our podcast. We're out.